welcome to my channel on the best of fantasy. This is the week that was, and it has been a wonderful time. We won't talk about how long ago I filmed the last episode of the week that was, but I have been busy in a happy way with lots of great stuff happening on the channel and elsewhere. I've also been busy at work, frankly, so I want to apologize for being less active on BookTube in the last couple weeks. I am still buried in grading, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, so I am looking forward to having the semester behind me and diving into some very exciting things during the winter break, including lots of BookTube stuff and some writing. And in fact, I have some publishing news that I want to share with you all, but I think I'm going to make a special announcement for that in the new year. But a few things need to fall into place before I can make that announcement official, but I think that I will have some very good news to share with you all shortly about the publication of my trilogy. So I'm very excited about that, and I will be letting you know and keeping you updated about the progress of that. But I think you can expect to see my trilogy out next year. So more details to follow in the new year. Now, on the channel, what have I been up to? Well, I had some great episodes of Dear Dr. Fantasy. One with the wonderful P.L. Stewart, one of the nicest human beings I have ever had the privilege to meet. And he is, of course, the author of Drowned Kingdom and the series of books that follow. And I am so excited to eventually read those books. After talking with PL, I'd already heard great things about his writing, but after talking with him, I'm even more excited to read A Drowned Kingdom and get going on another great fantasy series. I also had a wonderful time chatting with Bookborn, and we covered a range of topics as we discussed some of our favorites. We talked about Star Wars, of course, as you can see in the thumbnail. And we talked about self-published fantasy and SPFBO and other exciting things related to the genre of fantasy. So that was a great conversation. And I also had an episode of Dear Dr. Fantasy with Kevin Spons, who is a creator here on YouTube, but not a BookTube person so much as a teacher who wants to share his knowledge and his joy of writing in the form of videos that help people to get a hold of grammar and punctuation and all that stuff, all that important stuff that may not be on the surface as exciting as talking about books, but it is extremely important, and it is the stuff of which books are made. So I had a great time talking with Kevin. Mostly we talked about fantasy and manga, but that is what he does on YouTube. Also, I had some wonderful discussions with Murphy Napier on Vinland Saga, books 8 through 11 and a half, I guess, because that's where Arc 3 finishes, about halfway through book 12. And wow, I really just am so delighted with my introduction to manga. Vinland Saga was the perfect introduction for yours truly, and I have enjoyed the discussions with Murphy more than I can possibly say, and I'm so excited that I'm going to be continuing to read some manga with Murphy. And we talked about that in our last chat on, I guess it was books 11 and a half on her channel, Murphy Napier Blogs. Yeah, we are going to continue doing manga. So I am very excited, and I'll have more to say about that in the new year. We won't be starting our next manga series until probably late, even February, I think. It'll be probably more like February, because we do have a little bit of Vinland Saga stuff that'll be coming out in early to mid-January. And we're going to finish up whatever Vinland Saga is left to do. I think that'll be the end of the series, in fact. So yeah, we'll finish that up, and then we'll move on to our next manga. And I also did a video when I finished reading Book 7 of The Dark Tower. It's really Book 8, but whatever. And I just really love that series. I had some thoughts about The Dark Tower, the book, and The Dark Tower, the series, that I shared in a relatively quick video. And I am so delighted to have finished that series. It is just so tremendous and bizarre and different, and it is among my top 10 favorite fantasy series of all time. Probably the weirdest one in the lot. But I also had a wonderful time having a Dark Tower palaver with Mike and with Chaz and with Ursi, and Sarah was going to be there. Alas, she could not be there. I did give her a little bit of a hard time in the beginning of the discussion for her absence, but it really wasn't her fault. Parental duties and all that sort of thing. Busy time of year, so unfortunately Sarah could not be there, but we did have a great time discussing the whole series, and we did have about 20 minutes of non-spoiler if you're curious about our assessment of the series as a whole and where it fits in with not just my ratings, but the estimation of those other wonderful booktubers. And then we got really into the spoilers after 20 minutes or so. So we got big time into spoilers for the entire series. So if you finish the series and you want to hear people talk about it in a very spoilery and exciting way, then go ahead and check out that video. Elsewhere, I also, of course, as I alluded to a moment ago, I was in some discussions with Murphy about Vinland Saga. So the half of those videos or so are on her channel, Murphy Napier Vlogs, and half are on mine. Also, I was in a discussion with Mike over his channel, and Madison and Scott and Jake on the Realm of the Elderlings read that we're going to be doing, and we're going to be chatting about the various trilogies, and I know there's one tetralogy in the series, but the various series within the series, the Realm of the Elderlings. I've already read Farseer, I've already read Lifeship Traders. I'm going to be starting with the next trilogy, Tawny Man, in the new year, and I am very, very excited for that. And so, yeah, I'm going to be joining those lovely people in discussing each of the trilogies / tetralogy as we progress. There will be discussions, I believe, on Farseer and on Lifeship Traders. And I think the Tawny Man discussion is going to take place in March or so. So I've got the books, I'm ready to go, and I'm very excited to be finally committed to finishing the Realm of the Elderlings, because I absolutely adore what I've read so far of Robin Hobb. I mean, the Farseer trilogy was excellent, and Lifeship Traders just blew me away. Launched Robin Hobb into my top 5, in fact, number 3 among my favorite fantasy authors of all time. So I really need to finish the rest of that series. And let's see, what else have I been up to? Well, I was in a discussion on The Warrior Prophet, Book 2 of the Prince of Nothing trilogy by R. Scott Baker. That discussion was on Joanna's channel, and Jimmy and Raph joined us to discuss that book and the series thus far. The Prince of Nothing trilogy is part of the second Apocalypse series, and I'm committed to reading Prince of Nothing at the very least and discussing it with those great friends of mine. And it has been a really incredible journey. In fact, I'm not sure if I'm probably not going to release a dedicated review of The Warrior Prophet, simply because I think everything I had to say I said during the discussion with Joanna and Raph and Jimmy. But if that's something you guys might be interested in, let me know in the comments and I'll consider doing a dedicated review. Most of the time, reviews of books in the middle of a series don't do particularly well. People seem to be more interested in the first book or in the series as a whole, so perhaps I'll give that a miss. But there is a great discussion on Joanna's channel, and I've also put it in the Baker playlist on my channel, so you can find it there. And what am I reading? Well, I have actually finished reading A Touch of Light by Tiago Abdallah, and I will be putting out a dedicated review of this book next week. And I very much look forward to sharing my thoughts on A Touch of Light. And I am now reading Holy Sister by Mark Lawrence. Time for me to finish the Book of the Ancestor trilogy. And I will be putting out a review of Holy Sister, or my thoughts, at least briefly, on the trilogy. I say briefly because I am going to be in a discussion on this trilogy, Book of the Ancestor, with Angela from Do Unicorns Read, and I'm very much looking forward to that. We need to schedule it, but it will be happening, I imagine, probably fairly early in the new year. And after that, most likely I will be picking up R. Scott Baker, The Thousandfold Thought, so I can be ready for the discussion in early January on the third book in the Prince of Nothing trilogy. That is going to be hosted by Raph, so we are going to have the same gang present for the discussion, and I'm very much looking forward to this trilogy. I'm pretty certain I'm going to have a little bit of a delay in reading the rest of the second Apocalypse series, but that I will definitely finish reading the rest of the books in the second Apocalypse. I'm too impressed by Baker's writing not to continue, but to be honest with you, the world in here is just so bleak and depressing. Not that I disagree entirely with some of what Baker has to say about some of the themes in there, but it is just a bit too bleak for me to want to continue back to back to back to back. So I'm going to have a little break, and there are so many other really great series that I want to read in the meantime. So I will eventually finish up, though, with the second Apocalypse, and I'm very much looking forward to finishing this initial trilogy, Prince of Nothing. And I might be able to sneak in a Dresden Files book. I'm on Blood Rights right now. That's book 6 of Dresden Files. If I have time, I will sneak it in, perhaps before the end of the year. But I also definitely need to read Fool's Errand, the first book of the Tawny Man trilogy, which I already mentioned I'm going to be reading and discussing with Mike and the others. And I will be putting out dedicated reviews, I'm pretty certain, of each of the books in the Realm of the Elderlings on my own channel before I go and join the discussion. Fairly short. You know my reviews. They're pretty short, around 10 minutes or so. And just going to get out some thoughts. It does help me when I'm in discussions later on to put out a review of my own in which I order my thoughts. So I will probably be doing that for each of the Robin Hobb books. So yeah, those are my plans. And I have some really fun stuff upcoming. I'm going to be in several Dear Dr. Fantasy chats with some really wonderful people that I've got lined up. I'm going to be in an episode of Page Chewing, my first time being a guest for Page Chewing. So I'm very much looking forward to chatting with Steve and Taylor and PL. And of course, I already mentioned the collaboration with Raph and Jimmy and Joanna on The Thousandfold Thought. And there's some other things that are going to be happening a little bit later that I'll be telling you about as we get nearer. That's it from me for now. Until next time.